I'm going to start with an open question. It has to deal with the definition of racism. Chris Matthews said recently, fairly recently, that racism is the belief that one race, whites, should rule over all other. Is he right? Is racism confined to whites? Why don't you start us off, Dr. Secrest?
I believe the definition has shifted over the years. A lot of it goes into the power dynamic. Can anyone be a racist if they don't have the power that's associated with it? Usually they tie racism to white people because they've got the power to keep other people oppressed. Most would argue that Black people cannot be racist because there is no power that can affect anyone else's lives. That's the dynamic. That's usually where the color of one's skin is tied to racism itself. Why can't Black people be racist? Why can't Latinos be racist? It's the power, the shift of the dynamic. We've seen that change though, especially in recent times as we're starting to look at the dynamics of how we engage with one another when we're inside of a room. The conversations have changed from just the undoing the supremacy, the white supremacy, the institutional structures, and going back into just the differences of races of how we treat each other. Black and brown, the interactions between those two, Asian, all of those dynamics. So yes, I do agree with the initial definition, but I do recognize it's changing.
And I fundamentally disagree with the basic definition, and I don't think it has anything to do with power. Power is a capacity. Racism is about a set of beliefs, and power is just the ability to enact those beliefs. So, in other words, you can have a racist who doesn't have the power to actually enact those beliefs, and that would be a less threatening racist, presumably, than a racist who actually has the power to use those beliefs. But I mean, if you look at Zimbabwe, where white farmers have been thrown off their land, that's a pretty good example of Black racism. If you look at a situation like you said, I mean, first of all, if you look at there was a poll, Rasmussen poll in 2013, asking Americans who they believe is racist, and according to the Black community, a plurality of Blacks actually thought that Blacks were more racist than whites, according to the Rasmussen poll. 31% of Blacks said that Blacks were more racist than whites. 24% said whites were more racist than Blacks. So, whether the definition or not has changed, the definition of racism should be that you believe that one race or any race, because of its inherent skin color or because of ethnicity or because of by dint of birth, that you are privileged beyond other races in terms of superiority. If you believe that under any circumstances, then that, by my lights, is the definition of racism. And anything else, I mean, if you want to give Black racism another name and say that it's not racism, it's just something else that's bad, then I suppose that it's some sort of linguistic difference. But the bottom line is it bad or is it good? And, you know, for my money, we might as well label it all racism because it's not exclusive to white folks.
Go ahead if you'd like to add.